Hello again. This is lesson 13 in the series on the 8th programming language. In the previous lesson we made a start with arrays. Before we can carry on with that, we need to explain a bit more about 8th words. So far we have only encountered words which have a name, named words, like so. In the REPL I'll show it. Okay, we start with a colon, then we give our word a name, in this case it is test, then we put in the code, and then we end with a semicolon, and we can run the code. Okay. Sometimes we need anonymous words, which is words without having a name. Such anonymous words can be formed using parentheses, an opening parenthesis at the beginning and a closing one at the end. And this will be compiled by 8th as a word. And it's very important to realize that these parentheses are also words in 8th. So everything must be whitespace delimited. Don't forget it. Okay. Sometimes there are words in 8th that will accept another word as input, as a parameter. And during execution of that word that's been taken as a parameter will be executed. So, how must we invoke such a word? So, an example. Imagine we have a main word called X, which needs a helper word Y during the execution of word X. And the SED, the stack effect diagram, is one input, the helper word. Okay. If we now wish to invoke word X and accept Y as a parameter, and we do something like this, things go wrong. Why? Well, 8th doesn't know what we mean. 8th thinks that we first want to invoke Y as a word, and after that we want to invoke X as a word, which is totally wrong. Okay. So we need to tell 8th that Y isn't a word to be invoked, but a word to be used as a parameter. Especially for that reason, there is a quote word, single quote, and it's very important to realize that that is the single quote using for text. And because I'm using here a text processor, Microsoft Word, it is shown not in the right way, but it's just the single quote. Okay, example 2. Now we try to invoke X using the parameter for the word Y, and that is quote blank Y blank X. The blanks are very important, the white spaces, and this together makes that 8th knows that we only want to hand the definition of the word Y to X and not evaluate or invoke the word here right away. Okay. Now we want to know, of course, how such things can be used, the anonymous words. Here an example. So we create an anonymous word here, and then we invoke X, and X can then accept this as a parameter. That's no problem. We don't need to quote this because 8th already knows. Okay, now we're going back to this situation where y was used as a parameter. So how can x invoke y? Well, there's a special function called w::exec which invokes another eighth word. So I've created a little example to complete a picture for you. I've got here a small helper word which accepts one item from the stack, a number. It adds 100 to it and then prints it. Oh, okay, and now we've got our main function called doStuff, which accepts two parameters, namely a number and a word name. Yes? Okay. And then when it's executing, it invokes w::exec, which will invoke the word put in as an argument. Okay, now we are going to invoke the whole program using app::main, and then I show you three methods to invoke doStuff using the helper word to do the work. Okay, so in the first place I push the number 100 on the stack, and then quote helper, which pushes the definition of helper and it will not invoke helper right away. So when doStuff starts, it sees on the stack 100, and at top of stack is helper. So w::exec will invoke helper, and helper in turn expects the number 100 on the stack. So it will then add 100 to the 100 already, and it will print it. So it will print 200. Then the second method I show is that we use an anonymous word. Well, in this case, the anonymous word consists of code, and the code happens to be invoking the helper word. Okay, that's working. And the third method is that we put all the code right away between the parentheses. So then we don't need to create a helper function at all. So it's a kind of inline coding, and that works as well. When I show that, I quit the 8th REPL, and then I say 8th lesson 13, and you see that all three methods output the same number, namely 200. Okay, I hope you've got an understanding about anonymous words and quoted words, which is very important for our next lesson on arrays. I hoped you enjoyed this lesson and you will come back to us. I've got some more information for you on my blog, the 8evangelist.com. I'll show that to you in a moment. Yes, okay, and then we have the reference. Okay, you can see here the information, the YouTube channel, which is here, where you can see these videos, and here is my blog, and my blog does show the document over here, so you can read it at leisure. And also I want to point you to the main website of 8th, which is 8th-dev.com. There's also a quite nice forum where every question will be answered for you in a friendly manner. Okay, that's enough for today. Goodbye for now.